Hello and welcome to Events Dear Boy, the podcast for anyone involved in business events. If you're a conference producer, corporate event organiser or events agency, then we're here for you. We want to share the highs and the lows, the best practices, as well as the horror stories. You can expect ideas and inspiration and maybe some laughs too.
And if you're a speaker at these events, then we're here for you too. We'll be talking about how you do it, what makes speakers nervous, and how it feels when it all goes well or terribly.
My name is Catherine McNamara and I'm the marketing lead at the talent agency Pomona Partners and someone who has organised many business events in my working life. And alongside me is Pomona Partners founder and veteran of 1,000 speaking gigs, Tom Cheesewright.
Each episode, we're going to be joined by somebody from the business event space, either an organiser or a speaker. We'll ask them to share their experiences, both good and bad, and their tips for other people in their positions.
And I'm delighted that on this episode, we're joined by Nikki Kitchen. Nikki, welcome to a podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys.
Not a problem at all. So let's launch right in. Can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, I am founder and director at 2 agencies now because one just wasn't stressful enough. We've got Purple Riot, which has been going for 12 years now. We're in our 12th year, which is more focused on the PR and marketing side, but we have always done events. But the last pre-COVID, the events world obviously disappeared, but historically we've always done events as part of Purple Riot, but they started to get a bit lost because we were producing bigger and bigger events. So we actually started Riot House, which is our sister agency, which focuses solely on event production, event management in January. So that's a separate brand, separate website, obviously still very much related with the name, but that is, just focuses on events. So that's in its first year this year.
Very exciting. And what sort of events are you getting pulled into producing? And is Purple Riot still doing some events, and are they different sorts?
Yeah, and that's it. They obviously really cross over with each other because we do a lot of PR and marketing events on Purple Riot side, a lot in hospitality and leisure primarily, I would say. We have done B2B, kind of more speaker-led events and things like dinners and professional services, but we really manage everything from, small, intimate dinners, influencer product launches to big large scale shopping centre events, city centre events. So we've got quite a few shopping centre clients actually, and that's actually my background is shopping centres and those kind of bigger activations with a lot of said list celebs which we can talk about. It's really varied, to be honest with you, but we've got, clients in property, professional services, and then hospitality, leisure, restaurants, things like that on the leisure side.
Very cool.
And what is it that you like most? And what do you put off? What are your two ends of the spectrum that you like to get involved with versus I think somebody else can deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very creative, so I love bringing together the creative ideation phase, I suppose, and seeing that vision come together with an event. I think probably least so the technical side, which, when things break, that's not fun. But thankfully, we work with some fantastic suppliers on the production side, which we still have to manage that, obviously. But, when you're installing staging and big light structures and all that kind of thing, then things obviously do break, but we pull in the right people to fix it. So I think that creativity, vision, seeing it all come together is really rewarding for me, I think.
And how big is that team then? So you've mentioned that you kind of work with production teams. So do you bring the resource in as you need it? And how kind of big is the internal team that looks at these things?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, we actually had a lot of our own production elements. So we owned things like staging, lighting, things that we were using quite regularly for events. And then obviously COVID hit. And we didn't need that anymore for a bit. So we got rid of that. And now just sensibly, we bring in the right partners. So as a team across Purple Riot and Riot House, there are 7 of us now. I'm recruiting all the time on the event side because that's obviously very new. But for things where we need, large scale production, we'll bring in partners that we know and we've built relationships with over the last few years.
It's huge, isn't it? I was chatting to my cousin actually runs a big sort of staging and crew company, and he's just got people all over the country all the time, putting stuff up, taking stuff down, putting stuff up,
That's
taking
it.
stuff down.
Yeah, it's constant. Yeah, it really is constant, and like hats off to those guys because they really do drop everything. You know, if there is an issue, they'll come and fix it immediately. You know, because there's always somebody around, especially in Manchester. We do work across the UK, but predominantly in Manchester for sure. So there is always, thankfully, someone that can come in, fix a wire or press a button and things work again. So.
And out of all these wonderful events, what's the one you're most proud of? What's the one that stands out for you, and
There
why?
are just genuinely so many because my background is I've always been in marketing and kind of marketing manager level before I set up Purple Riot 12 years ago, like I say. And yeah, it was very events led because again, my background was shopping centres. So we had a kind of 12-month rolling events calendar constantly. And before I was actually in house, I was agency side and had 7 shopping centre clients, I think. So we were constantly at events. I think the one that stands out for me in kind of when I had a job before I started Purple Riot was probably when I launched the Rock shopping centre in Bury because it was a brand new shopping centre and we had a gigantic marketing budget, which is, you know, every marketeer's dream, and it was just a huge launch. It was fantastic. Like we put so much budget into it, so it was really over the top. Full day of activity, huge production, entertainment, bands. So yeah, that was fantastic. And then I think agency side, I mean, again, there've been so many and we've been really fortunate to work on some fantastic projects, especially recently. But I think the one that stands out is probably Vogue's Fashion Night Out because we had such a small amount of time to produce it. And I think literally within 2 weeks we curated our own fashion festival as part of the wider city centre event. And it was right in Exchange Square, smack bang in the middle of Manchester, outside Selfridges, so the location was fantastic. And it was, again, a full packed schedule of pop-ups, fashion shows, live music. And we had, I think, 5,000 people attend our event. So that was amazing. And then more recently, so Trafford Palazzo, one of our clients, who were brilliant. It's a shopping centre, leisure destination space. And we've been fortunate enough to get really creative with them. So we recently completed a Glastonbury-themed event in the centre, which was brilliant. So we streamed the festival. Again, lots of live music, entertainment for kids and all the family. And that was brilliant. Really, really nice to see kids taking part in that kind of event as well, I think. And then just last week, we launched a new venue in Manchester called Courts Club, which was, again, mega, had about 500 people. And yeah, smashed it. It's a fantastic new venue in St John's, you know, the new area in Manchester. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
With a basketball court, tennis court, and a gorgeous indoor space as well. So yeah, we had some, like break dancers, basketball pros, food and drink. So just really fun. It's a fun job.
Yeah. You make it sound fun. You make it sound fun because sometimes when you dip your toe in the water, and we've discussed this with kind of other organisers as well, that some people it just takes it kills this stress threshold just completely smashes with events. But and then you speak to people like you, and it's like, oh my God. That sounds really fun.
I realised you just asked me for one example then, and I gave you about
No,
5.
it's fine.
No, it's good.
No, absolutely.
You've triggered a memory of me in not long after the Rock opened, going and doing a live broadcast with BBC Radio Manchester and Becky Want from there.
Oh,
many
nice.
moons ago.
Yeah, it was such a great centre. Obviously, the new bit, you know, you had the old and the new, didn't you, come together? So when was that? 2010. So at the time, you know, it was such a fantastic, well, it still is, you know, but a brilliant, like, modern development, wasn't it? Especially for, you know, Bury as well. So yeah, it was great. We got to do loads of fun stuff at the Rock, actually. So yeah.
What about events that haven't gone so well? Any big disasters? Maybe an opportunity to bring out some of those celebrity names.
Yeah. I think the biggest one, still got PTSD actually when I talk about this. I start getting like anxious. So this was actually at the Rock as well. We tried to build the world's biggest glitter ball, as you do. So as part of our Christmas light switch on, came up with this fantastic idea. Let's build the world's biggest glitter ball and hang it above the centre. You know, health and safety and insurance were just like, no, and they hate us all the time. So it sounded brilliant. We found this guy who apparently had done this before, was very experienced, and he started to build it within the space. And Tom, you'll know it if you've been there. So right in the space, it's all open, it's not covered, so it's right in the middle of the main shopping area. And the idea was he'd build it out, it'd be great for shoppers to watch as they visited, blah blah blah. And it was absolutely gigantic, it was huge. Anyway, the guy ended up just abandoning it mid build, so we had a half built glitter ball in the middle of the mall. So yeah, it was a bit frantic. I still remember vividly walking into work one morning and our PR agency just running over and grabbing me and going, "Oh my God, we've got a bit of a situation." So yeah, it was awful. There was a lot of fallout from that, and obviously we couldn't move it either because it was so big and it had just been abandoned in the centre. So I think it was 2 days before the Christmas light switch on as well. It's like, what do we do with it? So we had this disgusting structure, and then thankfully managed to pull together a good event, but that was, I think, the worst, because just the general fallout. Like, we'd invested so much in the marketing, radio, TV, outdoor, everything, to advertise this fantastic event and that we were going to be launching the world's biggest glitter ball, and then didn't even complete building it. So yeah, that was stressful.
It's the bauble that's fallen off the tree.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Exactly. I'm sure we put our PR hats on and spun it really well, but at the time it didn't feel good at all. And then yeah, over the years, like Christmas light switch-ons and people not turning up. So I don't know if you remember Chico.
Yes.
We had an angry mob of families at one Christmas light switch on where he didn't turn up. And fair enough, he'd had, traffic issues or whatever. But yeah, it was awful. We had people fully kicking off at that event and trying to manage that, and, dealing with it wasn't fun. And they're just things out of your control at the end of the day. And I think with kind of age and experience, you do get to a point where you think, it's just not that deep. I think you can kind of laugh at it a little bit. Whereas when you're younger, it can be so stressful. And I get a lot of people asking me all the time, actually, like, how do you do it? It's just such a stressful world. And yes, it absolutely can be. But I think you do learn to just think, don't sweat it. We're not saving lives. We're not doing brain surgery here. We're putting on, fun, nice events for people at the end of the day. And I think if you can think on your feet, there's always a solution as well. So, yeah.
So at some of your more kind of, not necessarily business-focused events, but in terms of getting speakers involved, could you tell us about any speakers that you have had at your events that you've been particularly taken by?
And favourite light switch-on celebrity as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I think not so much. We've done a few kind of dinners and round table events with more kind of business speakers. So the ones that I find interesting are kind of CEOs and business owners, I think. So we've had people from like ASOS and big fashion brands like that, where we've done a few dinners, talking about their experience and how they got there and their story. Like, I always find that really interesting, and I think an audience really buys into that, like hearing the reality, I suppose, a bit like this. And then in terms of celebs, who have we worked with? I think we did an event with Rowetta, obviously absolute legend for Manchester and Dale. And then the Christmas light switch-ons, we did a tour with the Cheeky Girls, who you'll probably remember.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
It was funny, actually. One of my kind of work pals said something on LinkedIn the other day about PR life and the stupid things that we all get involved with, and he'd done an event with the Cheeky Girls. I said, oh, so did we did a Christmas light switch on tour with them. And then someone else said, oh, we did an event with the Cheeky Girls. So they've definitely done the rounds. Everybody's had that experience with the Cheeky Girls.
Cheeky Girls have clearly got a really good agent.
Yeah, exactly. They did at the time, not so much anymore. Who else did we have? Atomic Kitten, old school. Jamelia, people like that. So some really good, at the time, kind of good, decent celebrities who were all really lovely. We've never had a bad experience, I don't think, with a celeb. So,
Nikki, that is our second Atomic Kitten reference today.
Is it? There you go.
Yeah, listeners, watchers, you'll have to work out where the other Atomic Kitten reference was. But yes, Atomic Kitten came up in a story.
Okay, was it a good story or
a really good story? There's lots of joining of dots that's going to have to be done now as people are listening to this season of Events Dear Boy. They're going to be like, which reference is that? But we'll let people come to their own conclusions and see if they can maybe contact us about it.
Yeah,
So what tips do you give people turning up to these events, whether they're speakers, whether they're the celebrities? What would you? Obviously, for Chico, it's leaving plenty of time and make sure that you've got, a fallback, perhaps.
Plenty of travel, yeah, absolutely. I think that is it. It's just planning as much in advance as possible. I mean, we do a lot of stuff that can be quite last minute, I'm not going to lie, especially in hospitality and leisure, because it can be all go, go, go. We've got something that we need to do immediately, which we're very good at that. But when we are given a bit more time, it's always welcome. But yeah, a lot of building relationships as well, I think, is very key with what we do, is having the right suppliers, the right partners, because that is half the job. If you've got a good relationship, like I mentioned earlier, about production and things like that, where you can just ring somebody to come and fix a problem, having that black book of partners, as we call them, because they really are partners, is absolutely key. So I think that practically that's my advice, but I think emotionally, like I said earlier, it's just kind of, and it's funny, it's always PRs and other marketing people that say, somebody said at a dinner last week actually, how do you do it? Because they hate events. Like you said earlier, a lot of people, even though they do work in marketing and PR, will not touch events because they're just too stressful. And I think it's like I said, you've got to really practically think on your feet. I'm a very solutions driven person, so if there's an issue, I'm very good at just going, right, just sort it. Let's not stress it, just sort it. That's experience though, right, I think, as well. But just don't stress it. It's not that deep at the end of the day. And I think, we're not saving lives. We're not saving the world. We're just putting on nice events for people. So try not to let it kind of overwhelm you and stress you out too much, I think. Easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was as relaxed early because I have a very weird career trajectory. I have a degree in mechatronic engineering, but then went into PR for a while. Obviously. And I got so stressed in PR. I got shingles when I was like 24. Oh, wow. I was physically sick once when when a day went completely disastrously wrong, and it's terrifying. I think if you almost need a chat from your older self, don't you, to go, do you know what? It's fine.
100%. I'm in my 40s now, and it's taking, I don't get me wrong, I still stress. I absolutely still stress. But I think I'm better at really, calming myself down and calming the team down and, just seeing it for what it is, I suppose. And also I think probably better at finding solutions as well through experience. But in my 20s and 30s when we were just starting out, God, it's one of the most stressful jobs ever, PR as well, as well as events. So that was I was a journalist that went into PR, and I've had some absolute horror shows in terms of, they're not, it's how and it's not stuff that you've done yourself, it's, and I often say to people, it's my biggest wins were things that I kept out of the press as opposed to things that I got in them, and it's just like, that's not a...
Are we back to Atomic Kitten again?
Yeah. I was once, I know this is slightly off piece, but I was once pacing around, I think it was my nephew's primary school sports day, and I was pacing around the back of the playground on the phone to the goodness, it was the consumer affairs editor of the Daily Mail, asking about how unlawful a service was that my old employer had, and it was this one of the single most, like you say, I felt physically sick afterwards. But interestingly, you do, it's just that, having the context to know that actually a good night's sleep and this time next week you're on to something else, so don't sweat it, and it just bounces off you now, doesn't it? It's strange.
Yeah, it does. And I think crisis comms is another kettle of fish, isn't it? And we don't really touch that side. I don't think I could actually do that because it is very incredibly stressful for different reasons, I think. But I think, do you know what, as well, COVID really changed things for people and gave people a bit more perspective, I've found. I don't know about you guys, but I think we're all a bit more focused on well-being and wellness and not letting things get to you quite as much. We've been through an absolute roller coaster, haven't we, the last few years, both kind of in business life and personal, and I definitely feel like people have got a different perspective now.
I would agree. I would 100% agree. And do you know what, Nikki? I think that's a great place for us to wrap up today's episode. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been
No worries,
brilliant.
Will.
And thank you too for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, please leave a review, like and subscribe. And please recommend us to your peers, whether you're event organisers or speakers. And if you feel this could be shared with anyone, please do pass it on. And we will be back soon with another episode. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.